everyone doing? Welcome to our CPQ secrets session. They're not so secret anymore. We've done this a few times, but nonetheless. So my name is Max Rudman. I'm the CEO of Prodly, and prior to that, I was the founder of SteelBrick, which became Salesforce CPQ. Hence the founder. So you've got the founder, Derek, who is our director of customer success and one of our early solution architects, and was actually done by just a project. I just built a product. He's actually implemented. So he's going to do all the talking for the most part, but I'm here to answer any questions you guys have at the end, and obviously chime in throughout the presentation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, hi, I'm Derek. Like Max said, I've worked on lots of projects. I see a few familiar faces out here, which is surprising that you want to come and listen to me talk again because you've already heard my song and dance many times probably. But yeah, I've worked on everything CPQ from clients with 300,000, employees to a 2-person electric bike rental shop in Austria. So I've kind of seen the whole realm of what you can work on with this product. And
the 2-person bike shop was the hardest, no?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
That's how it usually goes.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of talk through a few things like how to plan a project, how to manage and execute it. And I'm going to focus really kind of on the specific Salesforce CPQ product, not really CPQ in general. So there's things to know when you're using this product in particular. So one of the first things you want to do when you're kicking things off to plan is get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a transformational process for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. Is kicking things off to plan is get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a transformational process for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. Is kicking things off to plan is get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a transformational process for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. Is kicking things off to plan is get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a transformational process for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. Is kicking things off to plan is get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a transformational process for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. Is kicking things off to plan is get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a transformational process for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. It's going to be picked up in the plan. It's get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a trend for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. It's going to be picked up in the plan. It's get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a trend for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. It's going to be picked up in the plan. It's get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a trend for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, finance, all across your company to really get the full impact of the product. It's going to be picked up in the plan. Get your team ready. It's important to understand this is going to be a trend for your business if you're doing anything right at all. CPQ often completely changes companies, how they package products, how they go to market, how they onboard sales reps, all types of things. So there's tons of potential impacts upstream and downstream to using this product. So you might need to involve people from product management, people from marketing, people from finance, all across your company to really get
go to market price for anything that's automated. It's going to be the first price that your sales rep sees that they're going to potentially ship over to the customer. So you want to think of this as, go to market price. There's also new things in CPQ for pricing guidance, where you can use historical data to understand what's going on with your pricing, to set ceilings and floors, and understand kind of what a typical discount is. You can use that as well. It's a pretty cool tool as well inside of pricing. The next thing you want to think about as well is approvals. That you might want to use standard Salesforce approvals or the advanced approvals package that Max also made. Advanced is kind of when you have parallel approval processes that you want to kick off. You want to go to the VP of sales, and you also want to go to product management to make sure that everything is actually configured correctly and you're allowed to sell it. And maybe you want to go to finance because they want to have a net 90 payment day instead of a net 30. And you need to check all these boxes, and they don't need to wait on one another to get these things done. That's really the main standard use case for advanced approvals, as well as when things kind of cycle through approvals a few times, making sure that people that have already said yes don't get pinged over and over again when nothing changes for their kind of silo that they're dealing with. So like if finance keeps rejecting that, but the discount overall stays the same, like the salesperson doesn't care really. It's for you and finance to figure out. You can keep everything approved in that channel while you're working on another one. You also want to maybe implement immediate feedback for users that you can do with this. So along with pricing, you can flag quotes and quote lines and things like that to give feedback to the user that says, hey, it's gonna need approval from XYZ person, or just some quote line, you've discounted it too much. You can do that through the UI, and it's a smart thing to do. Or just set up your pricing completely that you never need approvals is another thing too. Like just don't allow certain ranges. I mean, that's maybe not feasible for some businesses, but I've seen it done in some aspects too. And yeah, you want to consolidate and standardize logic. So if you're merging together multiple business units, have meetings to understand why they might have discrepancies in their processes, so you can streamline things down, make it a bit easier to be consistent across the business. Because a big part of CPQ is the ability to cross-sell and allow people to easily, quickly learn and configure and set up things for products that they don't necessarily specialize in, or to bring in other business units as they're having an interaction with the customer. So if you consolidate and understand what's going on with approvals, you can make it a bit simpler. Instead of it going to 35 people at once, just go to 5 people maybe. With this too, you'll also want to kind of continually review what's going on in your approval process. So if there's someone that just always approves every single time, just take them out of the process. If there are bottlenecks where things are getting held up, maybe you need to add other people into that step, so it's not just a single person that's waiting on, or maybe figure out a way to get it to go to a lower level, different things like that. So you want to get speed to the customer. I worked in a CPQ workshop once with Accenture, and they said, we found that 50% of the ones that arrive first win the deal. With this too, you'll also want to kind of continually review what's going on in your approval process. So if there's someone that just always approves every single time, just take them out of the process. If there are bottlenecks where things are getting held up, maybe you need to add other people into that step, so it's not just a single person that's waiting on, or maybe figure out a way to get it to go to a lower level, different things like that. So you want to get speed to the customer. I worked in a CPQ workshop once with Accenture, and they said, we found that 50% of the ones that arrive first win the deal. With this too, you'll also want to kind of continually review what's going on in your approval process. So if there's someone that just always approves every single time, just take them out of the process. If there are bottlenecks where things are getting held up, maybe you need to add other people into that step, so it's not just a single person that's waiting on, or maybe figure out a way to get it to go to a lower level, different things like that. So you want to get speed to the customer. I worked in a CPQ workshop once with Accenture, and they said, we found that 50% of the ones that arrive first win the deal. With this too, you'll also want to kind of continually review what's going on in your approval process. So if there's someone that just always approves every single time, just take them out of the process. If there are bottlenecks where things are getting held up, maybe you need to add other people into that step, so it's not just a single person that's waiting on, or maybe figure out a way to get it to go to a lower level, different things like that. So you want to get speed to the customer. I worked in a CPQ workshop once with Accenture, and they said, we found that 50% of the ones that arrive first win the deal. With this too, you'll also want to kind of continually review what's going on in your approval process. So if there's someone that just always approves every single time, just take them out of the process. If there are bottlenecks where things are getting held up, maybe you need to add other people into that step, so it's not just a single person that's waiting on, or maybe figure out a way to get it to go to a lower level, different things like that. So you want to get speed to the customer. I worked in a CPQ workshop once with Accenture, and they said, we found that 50% of the ones that arrive first win the deal. With this too, you'll also want of the CPQ experience that's really what you want to think of as guided selling is like, what is the user experience overall, rather than getting wrapped up.
And that's really the power of that feature, right? It's got, it's basically a survey, right, with dependent questions, and it allows that dynamic interactivity where a question number 2 may be different depending on what the answer to number 1 was, right? That kind of experience is not supported in Salesforce out of the box and Sales Cloud, right? So this is how you want to use that to collect that highly dynamic information in a very streamlined UI that will then drive your product selection and integration.
The next piece of this is renewals and amendments. I think this is the key product differentiator for Salesforce CPQ is how this is handled. Generating contracts, subscriptions, and then being able to amend and renew those. So if you're planning on moving to a subscription
There's a guy who built the amendments, by the way, right here.
Yeah, this guy in the front did all the coding for that. So thanks, Mark. But yeah, this is really powerful if you're moving to a subscription model or you already have that in place and you're kind of struggling with how you manage the customer lifecycle across that. So someone buys, 50 units of a product for a year period, and then 3 months in is like, hey, we need another 100 of these. Like, what do you do? How do you do the proration? A lot of companies would do things like just kick off another contract for a year for like the thing, because they don't want their sales reps trying to do math to figure out, what is, 298 days worth of this product cost. CPQ does that automatically. It updates the existing agreement. It updates the renewal opportunity that it'll make. So it does a whole lot to automate your whole customer life cycle by kind of always knowing your forecast. You can do it even years out and keep opportunities up to date, and be able to nimbly change course with your customers by keeping track of every interaction that you're doing. You can do amendments. It'll update the opportunity. It'll create opportunities for you to know that, hey, I had this extra $1,000, $1 million, whatever, of ARR that was injected into this account. So it's really powerful. It's a really good differentiator for this product.
If you stay inside the box, right? If you customize the hell out of pricing, it doesn't work so well.
Yeah. Another piece of CPQ that is, not maybe always used, but can be useful is order management. So this is also kind of where you will have, a dynamism around how people are shipping or provisioning or receiving your products. Maybe what you closed on your opportunity isn't actually what you can ship to them on February 1st or whatever. So, you might be able to use this to deal with quantity discrepancies. Some SaaS companies I talk to won't actually turn on licenses until implementation is done. Different things like that. You can use order management to separate out items that are quoted and then have different start dates for them, provision different things, and understand what's being consumed by that customer. So if you're not a business that just you sell the quote and then everything is good, you're ready to ship it, this will allow you to have that flexibility to actually say, okay, this is what they actually ended up in their asset base, their install base. And it's also the intermediary for Salesforce Billing. If you're thinking about using that product, it's based off of the order object. So along with all this, you're going to have some change management. You're going to have a solid rollout plan. You're going to be wanting to involve sales reps, different functions that this is going to impact all through the project cycle. From requirements gathering to doing UAT at the end of every sprint, come up with an adoption plan, figure out how you're going to get people to use this right away. Showing them that they can make a document and a click of a button sometimes is a huge win, or just the fact that they can always have updated pricing. There's a lot of different things you can do there, like make videos, keep people involved, like I said, through UAT, which is very important. And the technology, setting this all up is the easy part. I've spent many more hours in planning and requirements gathering and waiting to see like if you actually need 500 of the same product over and over again in your catalog than I have actually spent implementing and setting everything up. So you have to make sure you have all the right people. You can get answers quick. I'm not waiting 6 weeks to get an answer back on how you actually, what date you want your renewals to start on, things like that. So the next piece of this is after you've planned out everything, is how are we going to implement this? So what you kind of want to do in implementation is choose single source of truth for a lot of things. Like, is the data that's driving all of this, is it customer data, is it product data, and where does it live? Is it all inside of Salesforce? Does it need to be fed in from an ERP via an integration? Understanding what you want to do there and understanding, where people are going to be interacting with this the most. Are your product catalog, now that it's in Salesforce, is that a good place for your product management team to update things, change prices, work there, or is it going to live somewhere else because of licensing issues or access issues, things like that to consider. And then, as Max was saying, as you implement, you want to stay inside the box. The package itself really meets 80-90% of like every use case right away that I've seen. There's not really a lot of reasons to kind of deviate, but with lack of experience, if you have a poor partner or you're trying to do this on your own, you might not know about every single feature that you can use or ways to get the right pricing, get the right documents, those types of things. So make sure you have trusted resources and you can just stay inside of what Salesforce is delivering. You'll be able to easily more adopt new features as they come out, as the product innovates and continues to grow and do new cool things, and really have speed to value there as you change anything in your business. If you're staying inside the box, you don't have to worry about changing things for customizations as your business changes, because every 3, 6, whatever months, typically you're going to have some new idea of how you're going to innovate and you want to change. So if you stay kind of inside of what the package does, you're again going to be able to navigate that much easier.
For the other 20%, I think it's very much worthwhile to have a conversation with business about how important that is, right? 80% of the cost of software is maintenance. It's not in creating it. So every line of code you write is going to cost you 8x over the lifetime of that piece of software. So sometimes you have to do it, sometimes you don't, but be very rigorous about the customizations that you take on, because they're going to cost you 8 times as much to actually maintain them over the course of the lifespan of the solution.
And again, avoid complexity, like Max was saying. Just because something was difficult before doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be difficult now. You may have not had something that fit very well for your purpose, and maybe there's something better going on inside of this package. Like I mentioned a couple of times with those product catalog examples where we can drastically reduce the amount of SKUs people are using. That's kind of one of the biggest problems we run into, where they just add like a -R because they renewed the product. Like, why did you need to do that? Maybe the price might have been different or something, but you don't actually need to create all this other data and technical debt around that. Maybe something that's unique to your business is not really a best practice. You might want to look and listen to your consultant on what your competitors are doing, because typically if I'm working on a project, I've already done 4 times your business somewhere else. So I've talked to someone that's doing the exact same thing, and I know how they're getting it done and what kind of results they're doing. So just avoid overall bloat. The whole idea of this is that you want to quickly and easily get things out the door to your customers. You want this to be an easy experience. And if it's not, ask, do we really need this thing that's complicating stuff?
And I think the last point there is very important, right? There is a law of diminishing returns and kind of the long tail of requirements, right? So don't feel like everything has to be 100% automated. It's okay to do some things manually, right? If you're doing 1,000 transactions or 10,000 transactions in a year and 3 transactions fall outside the system, trust me, it's better to do them in Excel or offline or some other way than overcomplicating the rest of 97%.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens.
Yep. And you can definitely like code yourself into a corner too if you really go for edge cases. You can create all this customization.
Edge cases is what fails the projects most often.
Yeah, oftentimes. And then if you need to move away from that, you're stuck. You have to unwind a lot of things that is going to impact the rest of the process.
Then you get into the performance problems, right? 10,000 line quotes, that's how you get there.
Yep. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is managing this kind of after you've gone live. Like how do you keep this going? How do you keep up with changes that are coming in as everything is going through? So, working on all these projects myself, a lot of times people get to the point where they're ready to do their first deployment and say, hey, like how do I add my CPQ data and like to the change set? It's like, well, you can't, it's data. Like a change set's made of data, it's a completely different thing. So, you have to understand that, you can figure out a process to do that. There are other, packages on the platform that are kind of the same thing, set up with data. So it's a bit different than what you would be doing with something just in platform when you're talking about CPQ. You can't just deploy with a native thing in Salesforce your whole CPQ implementation because it's all records. They're related. So you can develop a methodology to do this with like data loader to export, organize, import, remap everything with VLOOKUPs. But we also have a product that does that too. So that's what Prodly does. It automates that whole management process, giving this kind of complicated, error-prone thing that you're making someone do at 8 p.m. on a Friday night until Saturday morning, an automated point-and-click approach to do that. So when you're doing this, you're typically going to have some type of sandbox environment that looks like this, where you will have maybe multiple development sandboxes. People are working on a bunch of different things. You need to merge and push that into a QA or UAT org. So if you're doing this, it's many different teams. It's very error prone, and you want to be able to describe this, deploy it in more of a plain English manner, and understand what's going on across this, and be able to do this quickly too. So if you need to revert or change different things in the staging because of bugs that you had in production, you need some way to move all this data around. The next piece of this is like you want to plan for adoption as well. So requirements gathering, testing, training, like I've talked about, you need to figure out what you're going to be doing this, not just at the beginning of your project, but from an ongoing process. Like review your requirements often, understand what your business is trying to do, how these tools can impact that, help achieve these goals. If you follow the implementation best practices that I mentioned before, adoption will definitely happen because you have already been engaging people throughout the whole project. They're going to be excited about using this thing and going away from whatever painful things you're trying to get rid of. So this is critical. You want to make sure that you're getting this done. You want to always reiterate the what's in it for me, like what are they going to get out of this at the end of the day. Those are the critical things you want to talk about. So if you plan for adoption at each phase, you definitely plan for results as well. You want to document and share the goals you're trying to reach. Focus on metrics that you care about. It could be something like quote turnaround time. It could be something like improving your margins.
Discount levels or
or pushing other products that you want to sell.
Right.
I worked on an implementation that was solely because they had introduced new services products. They'd had them around for a year or two, but their sales reps just weren't selling them. So they started just bundling them into all their deals, and they saw like a 700% increase in service revenue. They were pretty excited.
Right, could be something very counterintuitive. One of our customers was Cloudera, and so what they found is by selling, they actually improved their retention rates on reduced churn on their software because they use CPQ to automatically bundle on training.
Yep.
So that was the forcing function to sell training, which obviously drove customer adoption and satisfaction and reduced churn.
Yep. So always remember why you started the project, what you're trying to get out of it, and make sure you're following up on metrics that would define like why you're trying to do certain things, what you're trying to get done. And of course, invest in a Salesforce admin. So what we need is, like, you want to, send them to training. They're going to be learning a completely new discipline. This is a bit harder than Sales Cloud.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah. So I mean, I was lucky enough to have a CPQ background before I started working at SteelBrick at Salesforce CPQ, where I got CPQ, and my ramp up was that I had to learn Salesforce kind of, and
actually that's a lot easier, right? It's a lot easier to teach somebody, a domain expert or somebody with domain expertise in CPQ Salesforce than to teach CPQ expertise to a Salesforce admin.
Yeah. So that's an approach you can take. Like, find someone that knows this inside and out to maybe, run or administer the project, or at least make sure that you're giving.
Send them to some training courses to learn Salesforce.
Yeah, you can do the other way around. But at least assure that people that are working in this project know the nuances of this specific product as well.
That's true.
Because
Get trained.
Yeah, there's some assumptions you can make that maybe aren't quite right. So the next things we're going to talk about is just our company, Prodly. I don't know if you want to.
This is the infomercial piece, and
Yeah.
we'll go into the Q&A after that. Maybe I'll cover this part. So this is the problem that we were born to solve, right? It actually, the idea came from the pain that we had at SteelBrick with deploying CPQ projects. Literally took us 2 days to move full CPQ project from sandbox to production because of this. There's 53 different objects that comprise just the reference, just the configuration data, part of the data model. And between them, there's hundreds of relationships. And as you all know, when you move records from sandbox to production, record needs to get changed, so all the relationships get broken. So not only do you have to export, import each table individually, you then have to go and rebuild all this. So this is what took 2 days, and now it's done in 2 clicks.
Yeah.
And but we have a bigger vision around this, right? And what we're calling it AppOps. So you might have heard the term DevOps, which is operationalizing development, and it's all about development. There's the metadata. So we want to make admins more productive, right? The world is shifting to these low-code, declaratively configured applications like CPQ, like field service, like B2B e-commerce on Salesforce platform and others, right, that are heavily configured with clicks, not code, which means all that configuration data that used to be stored as code is now stored as data, and there's no tools to manage it whatsoever. And it's crazy when you think about it, because the impact of a mistake in configuration data is just as severe as a bug in code, right? If you mess up a price rule and you push it out to production, you've just brought down your revenue generating mission critical system, just like a bug in code will, and you have no rollback capability. You have, like, good luck trying to set 5,000 rules, trying to figure out which one it was. So we're building a platform to address the full life cycle of managing packaged, declaratively configured applications on Salesforce platform and beyond. From building, better tools to build it, specialized admin tools, specialized testing tools, release management tools, which is the current product, and then purpose-built analytics. So come check us out in Moscone West. And now we'll do Q&A.
Yeah. So there's a mic over there. If anyone has any questions, you can just walk up to it and ask.
Usually gets going slowly, but then it seems to build up.
Alright, so in about 5 years of deploying SteelBrick projects, I have to say it's been amazing to use Prodly each time that we get to.
We have
So-
a happy user.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that I've never been able to solve, and I'd be curious about your best practice for, is how to deploy the managed pick list fields additional values, because that's a pretty big thing for target fields, etc., where you're adding other field API names to it, and then you just lose them in production. What's your favorite way to do that?
I mean, I don't want to lie, but I think we have this feature in Prodly, right? Like losing your pick list values. It's one of the checkboxes you can check.
Okay.
And so we're not focused on metadata. Technically, that's metadata, but we have light support for metadata. We will create missing fields on the fly, and we will sync pick list values on the fly. So that's the that's the bit of metadata that we do.
You do have to be careful that they're active. You know.
And related to this, other things like the, say, images that you have in your documents.
Yeah.
So yeah, we actually, that's a feature we have as well, where we can only, we will actually look at the text field of an ID, and we will try to map it as well. So it doesn't have to be a formal lookup. Obviously we do those too, but we will scan through, well, you have to tell us what it is, right? What fields you want to look at, and we'll go and match it up to records in the target. It works, and one of the classic use cases for that is the logo in a quote template. It's not a lookup, it's a text field where you paste the ID, which obviously is going to be different in the production environment potentially.
Yeah, and we're happy to help you with that if you just reach out.
Yeah, there was a booth in Moscone West. Come check it out, we'll show you.
I've heard you loud and clear on the importance of the product catalog analysis, and that's a fabulous piece of wisdom. I'm part of a project where we've done some really big, good, important things, but that was not part of it, and I think we're going to regret that a bit, and we didn't really, understand the importance of it. Would your advice simply be that well, and by the way, it's crunch time, implementation's right around the corner, and there's just not time to do that between now and our go live date. And so would your advice simply be do that as soon as you possibly can after launch, or would your advice be something a bit different than that?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta consider what this is gonna mean for adoption and usability and things like that, and really see if your end users are happy with what you've been building the whole time. If it's easy and still kind of makes sense, even though like it's a complicated structure that can get through it, you might want to do it late. Just go live and do it later. But if you're not getting rave reviews back, you might want to consider pushing the go live date back.
It depends on how deep a hole you're digging yourself into.
Yeah.
It may be worth reset. I mean, I know it's a horrible thing to say and very unpleasant, but it's hard to give you advice, right, without kind of understanding the specific circumstances. But I would take a hard look and see like how far off into the ditch are you veering here, and if it's worth pausing or continuing and then trying to get back out.
Yeah, I recently had to was brought in to kind of emergency assist a project that had been going on for 18 months, no results, hadn't gone live. And the issue was that they wouldn't do SKU rationalization. So it's just like, okay, so you want to do the irrational project.
And that's how I would pitch it to the sponsors. Is like, look, do you want a 2-month delay and do it right, or do you want 18 months of help?
Yeah. Good, interesting conversation with my VP coming up.
Yeah. Look to the end users and see what's going on UAT, if it's usable or not, and figure out where you're going to go from there.
So I'm a new software developer at a steel company. We're doing a lot of, unfortunately, we're doing a lot of customizations. And very quickly, I'd say within about 3 months of working with the quote line editor and all that stuff, we've gotten into Apex CPU limits, things like that, because groups, large amounts of quotes, you go through Process Builder and you try to debug what it's doing, and it's all a black box, right? You just get SPQQ, just 6 megs of SPQQ, right?
Yeah.
What in the box customization tools that Salesforce has are the best ones to use for integration and customization with the CPQ engine?
So there would be price rules that you want to look at instead of Process Builder, and you never ever want to do any type of workflow rules, Process Builder, or anything like that. Quote lines.
You should never need to do that.
Just never do that, because you'll keep kicking off jobs all the time. Because the CPQ package, anytime there's an update to anything on a quote line, it reruns the entire calculator. So if you're pushing things to that with some other automation, you're gonna just grind through everything. So that could be one issue. Another thing, that also goes back to this like product catalog rationalization thing. Like, are you pushing like 1,000, 2,000 lines to a quote? And do you really need that many? And does your customer even want to read all those? Like, kind of figure out what you're doing there and what you can maybe trim down to get around that.
So look at SKU proliferation and make sure there are a few well-defined and supported places to customize. The quote calculator plugin, there's about 5 or 6 of them. Right, and the product is designed to support certain customizations. Customizing the UI is not one of them. You'll be basically rebuilding the product, so don't do that basically.
Yeah.
And triggers, or is that a acceptable?
So again, like Max
Triggers
said,
for that.
yeah, you want to look at the quote calculator
triggers.
plugin
Yeah.
to do any modifications to the quote object model or the quote line data model that you can't do with price rules. You can probably do them with price rules too.
I joined an organization about 5 months ago.
And we're almost out of time too, so.
That's okay. We'll go as long as we'll go for as long as we can until it kicks out.
They just installed or implemented CPQ at the beginning of the calendar year, and I'm into CPQ, so 5 months in, I'm going a little bit. But basically, we have 100 products. Finance, their ERP has to have a SKU number, and as I'm going through the product catalog, I've noticed we've got 30, 40 products that are just.
Yeah, so I'll answer